So next, we're going to listen to the next presentation from Dr. Jens Gayko, who is the CEO of SCI 4.0. And then Doctor will talk about the perspective of AAS standardization in Germany and IEC.
Yeah, hello, welcome, good afternoon from my side and good morning to the colleagues in Germany. So I'm going to talk about the perspective of AAS standardization in Germany and internationally, mainly at IEC level. Already at the first German-Korean Forum on Industry 4.0 Asset Administration Shell back in October 2020, I had the honor and the pleasure to give a presentation. At that time, we have been very much in the phase to explain about the basic principles of asset administration shell. Seeing today's presentation, we can see a huge progress, and I'm very happy to be part of this very successful cooperation. Again, back in 2020, I gave in my last slide an outlook on the next steps and ongoing activities. And at that time, I mentioned that the challenge of the next month will be the extension of the standard series for the AAS, this IEC 63278 series, extension of repositories for semantic properties, and modeling of aspects of assets, so definition of submodels, and also the mapping of different technologies, and also other challenges. So today I'm going to talk about the progress in these areas, and you will see that a lot of progress has been made, but still a lot of work has to be done. Starting with the standardization on the asset administration shell itself. So we have currently two developments at IEC TC65 level, and I'm pretty sure you are very much aware about these developments. Just 2 months ago, a new work item proposal on the part 2 of asset administration shell has been launched. This is on the information meta model. The closing date for the voting will be next month, and we are quite confident that this will be successful, and then soon we can start this project. What is it going to be about? So the part 1 of the asset administration shell standard defines the basic principles and the structure. And the part 2 will describe the information model, and this will allow also to create data mappings to suitable technologies. But also you can see it here highlighted, this document will not describe the mappings itself. But as Mike Billman already stated out, there are ongoing activities, for example, at the IDTA, and also a lot of cooperation, for example, with OPC Foundation and Automation ML organization. So here this standard will describe the basic principles and the foundation for this, and then the work will be done at other organizations. So I think this is quite good cooperation here we see on all levels. Second new project is the planned part 3 of the standard series for asset administration shell. This is on security provisions for AAS, and also closing date is next month, and also here we are quite confident about this project. So this part aims at secure and interoperable exchange of information, which is of course a quite important aspect. And also the project will cover the 3 central targets of security, of integrity, authenticity, and confidentiality. And here it will describe the measures. Here I have a picture taken from this new work item proposal, and it shows that the basis for this project, or for this standard, will be the requirements in IEC 62443 series. This is a standard series of IEC TC65 dealing with the so-called shop floor security. So we have ISO IEC 27000 series, mainly for general security provisions, and this series for shop floor security. And this is the basis to derive the requirements specifically for AAS. You can see here also graphically which parts will be covered by this part 3, so on the submodels, on the interface and the substructure. But there are also aspects which are out of scope of the standards, like, for example, specific implementations or AAS user applications. And also some topics to be discussed. Well, the general structure of AAS is well known, and today we have already seen this or a similar picture, so I can keep this very short. One picture here also taken from the draft of IEC 63278, so the general structure of AAS describes the scope of this standard series. This is the gray box. Beside the scope, you can see there are a lot of other boxes outside of this gray area. So that means we need a whole ecosystem. And one important element is here highlighted in red. These are the dictionaries and ontologies. And these could be implemented, for example, via the IEC Common Data Dictionary, or also consortia-based dictionaries like eClass as a very widely used dictionary in the area of automation. So we can say that dictionaries play a central role for semantic interoperability. And during the first forum we had, I announced that we have started some activities to harmonize the IEC CDD and also eClass, or to work on this one. And this is now a project called Condo, and I will explain a little bit on this project. The basic idea of the project was based on the finding that we have two dictionaries or databases which are complementing each other, and they are based on the same foundation. So both dictionaries are based on the information model as it is defined by IEC 61360 and the corresponding ISO standard. So they have the same origin, they have a lot of similarities, but there are also some differences. These are differences in details of the implementation. But also there are differences, of course, in the content, because it makes no sense to have the same content in two different dictionaries. But today for the user, it is not easy to use both dictionaries at the same time, because due to these small differences in implementation, always you have to see and consider what is the source of a property. And then you have to process this property according to this. And this is, of course, not a very good situation for information processing. And this is a kind of barrier for interoperability we aim to achieve. So therefore, different approaches, or the question came up how to achieve a consistency among these dictionaries. Consistency here means it's not aimed to have both the same content, but to both dictionaries use the same implementation, or this are implemented in the same way, and also content which is available in both dictionaries should be the same or as similar as possible. So there should be no contradicting definitions in the two dictionaries. A first approach for harmonization between eClass and IEC CDD has been made more than 5 years ago. That was a project called DMAP. And this DMAP project aims at mapping content which is available in both dictionaries in principle, but not in detail, so to do some mapping. Here some achievements have been done, and some success was achieved, but some issues found by the test mapping, and this could be solved only partially. So findings have been a mapping from one dictionary to another one is possible, but not automatically. So it is manual work to be done. And especially it's manual work to be done by experts of these dictionaries. Because if it is just simple work to be done, then it can be automated. But here you need the precious time of experts of these dictionaries, and therefore it's not a feasible approach for the long term. And also one finding was that, of course, both dictionaries are dynamic. So that means they are changing all the time, more or less. And so once you have finished in the mapping exercise, then you can restart again because some changes have been done. So therefore, we gained precious findings out of these projects, but the central finding was that this approach is not feasible, so we need a new approach. And this new approach was to say, we have to look at the customer requirements and say we need a single common data repository. And then we started this project and called it Condo, and Condo stands for One Common Data Repository. And here it is illustrated, but of course very simplified. Means we will probably have one common database with one central interface for content delivery and usage. And within this, you have two different sectors, one for the E-class data and one sector for the ISO and IEC sector. Here I say explicitly ISO and IEC because ISO is also developing content for CDD. It's not yet published, it's still in the development phase, but in the future it will be available. And therefore also ISO decided to join this project. So we started in 2020 to discuss about this. And in December 2020, so shortly after our first forum, MOU between IEC, ISO, and E-class was signed. You can see this was also distributed in IEC Standardization Management Board. And we have, of course, participants in the project from E-class, from IEC Central Office, from ISO Central Secretariat, but also we have experts joining from DKI and DIN. And also we have international experts from industry for CDD and E-class. I have to say mainly from Germany, but also from France. And coordination is done from Standardization Council Industry 4.0. So the benefits is, of course, to have an integration of high quality content created and maintained by the different technical committees from ISO and IEC, and then to provide this content in one common data repository. So for the users of these repositories, there is no need to decide where to download the content because it will be a kind of unified access. And also there is a potential for harmonized content, which is indicated here. So once we identified and said we have content which is the same or more or less the same in the E-class sector and in the IEC or ISO sector, we can develop harmonized content out of this. And here this arrow indicates it's also possible to update this harmonized content. So once the harmonization is done, then we can update the harmonized content, and here we avoid that the content diverges again, and we have again to do a remapping. So the analysis phase is finished, and now we started the implementation phase that will be done in two phases. The first one is implementation of or to provide the content as it is today via this one. And the second phase is to have the possibility for this common content, which was shown in the green area on the slide before. So we are right now in the phase of preparation, of detailed planning for the implementation, and hopefully within this year we can provide the implementation of phase one. This is again a slide I showed in October 2020, where I said we need a seamless integration of the semantic properties. So we have on the one hand standardized properties from ISO and IEC, we have consortia-based properties from E-class, and also probably we need proprietary properties. And we think the project Condo will be a very important activity to fill this picture with life, so to make this happen. So here we could achieve a good progress. Next one I'm going to talk is about the modeling of the AAS submodel templates. Mike Billman presented in his presentation the activities of IDTA, which is very important for the ramp up, and to have also a central repository of the submodel templates, because otherwise it will be a mess for the users to find the submodel templates if we have no central repository for this one. But nevertheless, we decided, or there is a need also from the users to have some submodel templates in a standardized way. And as I've shown before, the submodels refer to the semantic properties as defined in E-class or IEC CDD. And this is typically done here with these so-called IRDs, which indicate here the number, and based on the prefix, this 0173 and 0112, you can see whether this is content from E-class or content from IEC CDD. And here we have a strong relation to this, and we identify two ways of references which are possible. The first way is that we have a separate description of a submodel template with all the elements which are in a submodel template, and each of these elements indicates via an IRD to semantic properties. So I just see this is in German, but it's more not to read about the content here, it's more to show the principle. So we have a dedicated description of the submodel template, and we have here then the different references to the semantic properties. And this is the first possibility. The second one is also to encode the submodel template directly within the semantic dictionaries of E-class or IEC CDD. And here you have the submodel template, just the basic information you have, and then you have a reference to the dictionary where you have the class with all the information in. And both ways are possible, but to implement these both two approaches, also some preparation work is required. And one preparation work is also to enable so-called database standards for IEC CDD, and therefore just recently, just 2 weeks ago, a new work item proposal was launched at IEC Subcommittee 3D, that is the one responsible for Common Data Dictionary, and it is about a database standard as part 7 of this IEC 61360 series. So this will be a standard published in database format only, and there is already an implementation in the test area of CDD. So if you are a registered user or expert of IEC CDD, you can see it already in the test area, but for normal user, it's not yet visible. So how could this look like? So will have this IEC 61360-7 some general items in this database structure. Then we will have an area where you can have asset administration shell, or more precise submodel templates. And then, for example, you have a dedicated submodel like a digital nameplate. Digital nameplate is one example of a submodel going to be standardized internationally, because nameplate is something which is also required by regulatory, by the authorities. And here we've seen, or industry says it's beneficial to have this as a standardized submodel template from IEC in that case. Sorry. So this new domain will be published, as I said before, it is already implemented in the test area, and in the test area there is already a submodel digital nameplate implemented, but this is really a first test to show the feasibility of implementation. So please don't rely on this, because there will definitely be some changes. But here on the right side you can clearly see there is a list of properties having the different properties like manufacturer, type of product, serial number, year of manufacturer, and so on. So all this can be stored here and referencing to semantic properties. So finally, I conclude and can say AAS shall or will become international standard, developed by IEC TC65 Working Group 24. But here we have a very good cooperation also with Korea, and Korean experts are very active in this group. So I'm pretty sure you're very aware of this. Also, we have activities at the IEC Subcommittee 65E, Working Group 2. They will start a project very soon for a dedicated submodel template on the digital nameplate. So this will be launched quite soon. But before we can implement this, we need also the database structure. And here it is done at Subcommittee 3D to prepare let's say the infrastructure for this to have database standards. So as I said, this is under the LUT now, this new work item proposal. A project team is already established. So if you're interested, you can contact the convener, or you can contact me. I'm happy to establish the contact. And also there is an activity plan to publish a white paper to model the semantic of data of an AAS with elements of CDD, because there is a similar paper is available for E-class, and now it's considered to have the same for CDD. As I said before, it will be very similar, but not exactly the same, because there are some small differences which need to be considered. But we think the white paper from E-class is an important step, and also the similar white paper for IEC CDD will also help to ramp up the application of asset administration shell. And with that, I come to the end of my presentation, and thank you for your attention.